The United States military consists of 5 branches. The role of the Army is to protect the United States using ground units, tactical nukes, and helicopters. There are 1,216,700 Army personnel. The Air Force protects the United States in the air and in space. There are 662,700 Air Force personnel. The Navy protects American interests at sea. There are 565,900 Navy personnel. The Marines are trained for land, sea, and air operations. There are 241,000 Marine Corps personnel. The Coast Guard promotes boating safety, rescues people at sea, and prevents criminal activities at sea. There are about 40,000 Coast Guard personnel. For our interview, we decided to talk to Mr. Chad Prigge, a military veteran from the Marine Corps.
For our futures, my responsibility. Yeah, I'm real good under pressure, being all that I can be. I can't call in sick on Mondays when the weekend's been too strong.
Well, when I went on my first deployment, when I was active duty in a combat situation in Desert Storm, that was the first time that women were allowed on the front line and in combat. So it was, I might have a different opinion than, maybe the most current people. I got to hear a lot of arguments over it just because it was such a big issue at the time. It was very current then, and I understood and agreed with a lot of the stuff. I feel as though women are just as capable as men in situations. I feel like any gender, whether it's single gender or not, they have to compete for specific jobs, and if they can do them, they can do them. If they can't, they can't. I like the idea of keeping it fair that way. I don't think that there should be huge change of standards between the two for a specific job. If a specific job requires loading 80-pound munitions, I don't think that the requirement should be lower for men or for women, depending on gender. The job requires a certain thing. So I like having that single standard. But I guess as narrow-minded as it might sound, being a guy, I feel like it is somewhat in our nature to be natural protectors also. And the women that I served with always proved themselves very capable. And maybe it was because it was so early on in the mix, or the women being allowed in combat. They still kind of let us have a guy role, and I don't know how much it's changed, but I'm all for equality.
Women have served in every war in U.S. history, but always at a varying degree. They weren't allowed in active combat until the late 1900s, but aided in the military in an office-style environment. A major controversy with women in the armed forces is sexual harassment. There is a fair amount of occurrences, with 6,131 in 2014 alone. However, only 317 of those cases resulted in a court-martial and jail time. The Pentagon claims that 1 in 3 women serving in the military will fall victim to sexual assault, and it is usually from fellow service members.
Oh, I think that the military can always use money. I don't like the idea like we're gearing up or amping up for something big to come, but I think that a good offense is often your best defense. I think that cutting military doesn't ever help us. I think that the troops deserve anything that they're able to get as far as pension and salary increases. I know people that get forced out of the military due to cutbacks and things like that, and it really falls on tough stuff when a person is within a year or two from being able to retire out of a career in the military, and then they literally just get booted. So that's tough. So I would like to think that the dollars will be used wisely, and I support military increases.
Military spending is a topic of great controversy nowadays. While some are calling for budget decreases, President Trump has a plan to increase spending by over $50 billion. The current Department of Defense budget is at about $574 billion, with total military spending at almost $825 billion. The calls for a lowered budget are somewhat synonymous with calls for the U.S. to lessen its influence overseas. However, people who support the current budget and budget increases claim that lowering the budget will damage the military by taking away valuable resources. It is also claimed, most notably by the President himself, that the United States has fallen behind with nuclear weaponry, which is a reason for his proposed budget increase.
I am comfortable with the current U.S. nuclear arsenal because I don't have to hear much about it. I assume that we are, from the last I understood it, we were overpowered. I don't think that that's probably changed since the last I heard. I feel like I mentioned in a previous question, a good offense is oftentimes a good defense. So, and there's another cliche quote that I could throw out there about the best way to keep the peace is to prepare for war. So, I don't have to see any nuclear silos or anything when I drive to work every day. It's not in my backyard. So I guess that's what makes it not feel threatening or worry for me. So I'd be happy to know that we have enough, but we're not flaunting it. We're not brandishing.
Warhead locations are in red, civilian nuclear power plants in green, and nuclear labs and weapon plants in blue. The American nuclear arsenal is a topic of great controversy. The current U.S. nuclear arsenal is quite large, with over 1,900 methods of delivery in the strategic arsenal. Many people would like to shrink this number of nuclear warheads. However, this number is well within the limit in the guidelines of the New START Treaty. On a January phone call with Russian President Putin, President Trump vehemently shut down an extension of the treaty. He believes that the U.S. is behind in nuclear power, and in February vowed to get the country back to the top. As seen here, the United States has fallen behind in modernization of the nuclear arsenal.